the cool kids who peaked in high school doing now? Story 1, she's a librarian, was aiming to be a big shot lawyer. That didn't pan out, which was because along the way, she learned she didn't actually like the profession, just the cool factor, and deep down cared much more about books and literature. Good for her, I say. Story 2, a good friend of mine peaked in high school. He wasn't a bad dude, he just peaked, lost his footing after high school. He dropped out of college, went into car sales, didn't do great in that, got fat, married a girl that objectively had very little to offer. We lost touch. But last I peeked in on his social media, he is remarried, lost a bit of weight, has a kid, runs some kind of blue-collar business. I think he manages a portion of a chain. He seems happy. I'm happy for him. Story 3, dead. Really sucks, as the reason he peaked in high school is because not long after he started a family and then got cancer shortly after, he was that super popular star football player that got along with everyone and never bullied anyone and always tried to lift others up. The guy was genuinely one of the best dudes I've ever met. Story 4, me. I lost my fiancé right before COVID, dropped out of college, was a wreck for about 2 to 3 years. Finally started losing weight again and have a steady job that I like. Nothing fancy, but am proud of how far Eve come. Some people misunderstood what I meant by lost. She passed away. Story 5, a lot of the high school tropes didn't really apply in my school. There was no cool kids group or anything like that. Everyone just had their own cliques based on their activities. The athletes tended to hang out with each other more simply because they spent a lot of time together at practices, but the nerds, AP class smart kids were invited to the parties as well, and no one really got bullied. Jocks loved the nerd from what I could tell. They helped them with homework, and not in a do-it-for-me way, but more a tutoring way. So IDK what you would even define as the cool kids in that situation. Some nerds burn out and are bums, and some of the jocks are doing very well. Story 6, many of them died at a party from fentanyl overdoses in their coke bags. Some of them became doctors and lawyers. A few of them became drug-addled parents. Story 7, the cool ones ended up losing their hair and getting humbled real quick by how hard the real world doesn't care about how they peaked as a teenager. The cool ones that were actually cool are off living their best lives, upper middle class in this economy, raising wonderful families, and generally being unproblematic and still cool people. Story 8, living the best lives you could even imagine. Wealth, friends, free time, hobbies, travel, exotic cars, and designer drugs. Everything just kept going their way. It's the only life they've ever known. Story 9, a lot of the cool people from my high school went on to become administrative assistants, real estate agents, recruiters, sales at car dealerships, and insurance adjusters. We live in a pretty high-income neighborhood as well, so a lot of them aren't able to afford their lifestyle. It makes sense, and I think this happens often where your high school life is funded by your parents who made it, and then you don't have the skills to repeat it. That being said, most of their jobs are very people-based soft-skill jobs. On the other hand, we had one that became a founder of a pretty sizable company, 300K ARR. I was a quite social person as well, not the popular kid, but the athlete who did computer science. So I had an in with the non-social kids as well as the social kids. Kind of makes sense when I look at my job as a product manager working with business leadership and engineers as my day-to-day. Story 10, looking down on people you went to HS with now that you're all grown up is some next-level pettiness. We're all just trying to do our best with the hands we've been dealt, whether we're teenagers or adults. Who TF decides who's cool? Anyway, such a juvenile imaginary label. Story 11, going to be honest here. Most of my former classmates who were considered cool and therefore popular have gone on to live moderately successful, if not outright successful, lives. There are a few who went down an unfortunate path of addiction or got involved with the wrong people. But for the most part, the popular kids grew up with a good social life and started adulthood with connections. I was a quiet, shy, straight-A student. Would have been valedictorian if not for moving at the end of junior year. I had all the book smarts, but none of the connections nor social skills. Once you're out of school, that matters a lot more than teachers or guidance counselors let on. While many of my cool classmates were starting their careers early, I honestly struggled for years after school. It was only after pushing myself to be more social and placed more importance on connections that things started to get better. Anyways, Reddit is looking more for the unsuccessful stories. So, one became an addict and passed of OD. 3 that I know got pregnant during high school. 2 of them had a rough time as they raised their children as a single parent. The other got married just after graduation and is still married to the same guy over 20 years later. Funny enough, all 3 became nurses. One kid was expelled senior year after streaking through the high school. A dumb decision he made after being pressured to do it as a dare by his friends. About 10 years later, I hired him as part of the night crew at a tire warehouse. We lost contact after the company was sold to a competitor, and they terminated everyone, though I've heard he is now in a leadership role at Chewy. The rest that I know are all doing well, all things considered. Story 12, unless you are from a small town, how do you even know what they are up to? I live a few towns over from where I grew up, and I still rarely run into people from my high school. Story 13, still living in our hometown, spreading the same rumors, eating at the same spots we ate at in HS, still going to HS football games on Friday nights, and then doing lots of coke with their same group of friends in that one friend's garage after the game while their kids run around getting drunk bullying other kids. Story 14, my school was weird. The cool kids were actually just the kids who were well off financially and had parents who loved them. So they were more well-adjusted than the rest of us. So most of those kids are doing great, doctors, lawyers, authors, etc. Story 15, she's still a good friend of mine, still conventionally attractive, but too picky and has never settled down, on her fourth fiancé, but probably won't actually get married to him either, quit her job in real estate in her 30s and got her teaching certificate, and is much happier as an elementary teacher. All around still a really cool person, and am happy we've remained friends. Story 16, this post reeks of insecurity. The popular kid who you were always jealous of got cancer 3 times, divorced 4 times, and is now living in a crack house. Does that make you happy now? Just let it go. Holding on to a grudge is like swallowing poison and expecting the other person to die. Story 17, very few of them actually peaked in high school. Most of them are still cool and living better lives than the smart energetic whatever kid from high school. Revenge of the nerds is a lie. Story 18, honestly, doing better than the people who feel the need to make a sad post like this. That said, some absolutely fit the stereotype and failed in life. Majority are just normal. Story 19, lots of popular kids from high school didn't peak there and have gone on to lead happy and successful lives. Meanwhile, many a bitter Redditor did actually peak in high school, realized life requires hard work and social skills, and now just post hateful stuff online. Story 21 is a financial manager in an investment bank in London. Another one took something like 910 years to get a 3-year bachelor degree, and now is working for a software firm, and she tests the software, and I was told she hates the job. Another one resigned from her job, and is now volunteering in Peru because she was kind of burned out. The last one didn't get his bachelor degree, and is now working as a PC assembler. Let's say that apart from the first one, the others didn't do so well. Story 21, a lot of the kids who were hot in my high school had wealthy, connected parents. So they just fell into a cushy job after spending 4 years partying in college because life isn't fair. Story 22, last time I talked to him, one popular guy from my high school was a route salesman selling cigarettes to convenience stores. That seems like the lowliest of sales job hells to me. Meanwhile, of us nerds whom this popular guy spent his time bullying, one started a successful medical research company, one retired at 40 from a dot-com startup. One was a vice president of an internationally famous architecture firm, and another is a comfortably retired engineering professor with a couple dozen patents to his name. Nerds win this round. Story 23, I grew up very middle class. A lot of them who peaked 30 years ago seem to be doing okay. Most are in the trades, have a tract home, a couple of kids, a boat, and maybe an RV, but every single one is an uneducated Trumper who spew the usual right-wing talking points on social media and still seem to have a healthy fear of critical thinking. But overall, I wouldn't say they peaked so much as they just became their parents, which isn't a bad life. And who am I to judge? Maybe I peaked back then and just don't have the self-awareness to admit it. Story 24, the really depressing thing about the cool kids in high school is that while they all end up divorced, they also all end up making good money in sales jobs because they're attractive and confident, and that keeps being useful. Story 25, definitely not on Reddit wondering what you're doing. 20 years after your high school graduation, you're on Reddit, still wondering what the cool kids are doing, as I high-five my boy and pop the collar on my 20-year-old varsity jacket. Then I hop in my minivan and head straight to work where I'm overworked and underpaid. Yeah, I got all the girls in high school, brah. Now I have 3 kids and 4 baby mamas. Fat baby mamas and fat babies peaked. I'm still climbing to the top, son. I haven't even reached a mountaintop. At 40 years old, climbing is pretty tough and it hurts, but when I do make it to the top, I hope there's a cliff with a large drop, cause I plan to launch myself headfirst off that Mathafka. So take that non-cool person. Story 26, dead or in prison for the most part. The cool kids at my school were all thugs and gang members. Let's see, one is in prison for life for shooting and killing a military veteran who also went to our school. He was a senior when we were freshmen in a robbery gone wrong. What's crazy is this guy was a class clown type. Really stupid, but not violent or angry like others. Never would have guessed had murdered someone. One was stabbed to death in a parking lot in the middle of the day during a drug deal gone wrong. Don't feel bad for him. In middle school, when he was 17 and the rest of us were 12, he bragged about how he and his friends tortured a dog to death, cutting open its chest so they could see its heart beating. Everyone on Facebook still mourned him. He was an evil person. Another died during a car chase. A rival gang member chased him and his friend, and while driving, both cars exchanged gunfire until his car crashed and he and his friend died. The guy chasing them was arrested. No idea who the other two guys are. A huge group of guys that went to my school's elementary, middle, and higher are in prison for life because they shot up a car with another guy from our high school in that car with machine guns. His girlfriend and her 2 or 3-year-old sister was in it. The guy survived, but the girlfriend and baby did not. A different group are in prison for life because they stole weapons and got in a shootout with police. I think 2 were killed, but I didn't know them. I did know 4 of them, and they all survived. What's crazy about this is that one of them was in a class I took senior year that had a bunch of freshmen in it because I needed a specific credit or something. I can't fully remember, but this kid with a loud mouth class clown type like the first guy I mentioned, he definitely had that wannabe gangster vibe. But he was so goofy. I guess the goofy ones feel like they have something to prove. Another guy last I heard had been in and out of prison. Knew him since we were like 7 or 8. Well, that's how old I was. And I was always a year younger than everyone else. But he's robbed dollar stores, gas stations, and other places and seems to always get caught. I stopped looking at the news, and I deleted all my social media years ago. So there's likely more deaths I'm unaware. There was one guy who are popular that did from a car wreck and nothing gang-related. Really sad. Knew him since I was 7, too. Another died from heart failure in his 20s. Knew him since then, too. Another accidentally killed a little kid, but he's not in prison and seems to be on good terms with the family. Knowing him, it was definitely a freak accident. I don't want to share the details for privacy, but I know for sure he's forever traumatized. There's plenty of other violent conclusions to people I went to school with, but I only listed the popular kids that were considered cool or just popular in general. There are some cool ones that I have no idea what happened to them, but based on how they were there either in prison, dead, or maybe turned their life around. There was this one former gang leader who was kind of popular after a fought and beat up the first guy I listed. Half the school loved him, the other half hated him. He was always a really nice guy. Last I saw him, he turned his life around, which seemed like something he was doing from what I noticed. He was in a few of my classes. I remember seeing him at a gas station a few years after we graduated. He had a wife and a kid, and he was dressed up really nicely. I think they might have been attending church. It's been so long now I can't remember, but I remember feeling really happy for him. No idea if he did anything bad in the past, but he seemed like he at least wanted to be a good person. But it's been over 15 years since I last saw him. Oh, there was this other popular guy who like a straight-A honor student, and all the teachers and other students loved him. He was really nice towards me and would always talk about video games and Dragon Ball Z. But he was also a drug dealer. Somehow I don't think he's in prison. I imagine he got a regular career somewhere after college and is a millionaire or something. That guy was smart, cool, athletic. It's like he was using cheat codes. If he weren't a drug dealer, I'd swear he was the main character or something. Story 27, he got blackout drunk and snorted some coke one night and thought it would be a good idea to steal a Mercedes that a guy left running at a gas station. And he sped off on it and T-boned some dude and hospitalized him. Pretty sure he's still in prison. Someone sent me his mugshot, and it felt really good knowing that I have a good job, a loving wife, beautiful kids, and a clean criminal record. Guess I won the long run, you bully piece of trash. Story 28, Marky got with Sharon. Sharon got Cherise. She was sharing Sharon's outlook on the topic of disease. Mikey had a facial scar, and Bobby was a racist. They were all in love with dying. They were doing it in Texas. Story 29 guy I went to school with and was 3-time state champion wrestler. Went to wrestle on scholarship at a local university. Prom king. When we were about 21, it came out he'd been molesting kids at wrestling camps and having underage relationships with boys he met through wrestling. A bunch of people were shocked, but I had always thought it was weird how during senior year he was hanging out with freshman boys instead of with the rest of the seniors, mentoring them. Disgusting. Anyways, last I heard, because there's not social media of his anymore, is that he lived about 4 hours away, is a fender, and worked as a bouncer at bars. Story 30, I peaked in 5th grade where I broke the 50-yard dash record, pull-up record, and chin-up hang record in front of the whole school. There's no topping that feat. Oh, I'm in tech sales now, and think about those moments at least once a week. It was a low-income area public school as well, so some of those records were decades old. The school has been torn down now, so I'm permanently the record holder in perpetuity. Story 31, peaked in high school, is such a stupid phrase. We get it. You were bullied. Why are you focused on comparing yourself to people who hurt you when you were a teen? You're an adult now. Go to therapy. Story 32. I had a bully in high school who harassed me at every opportunity and threatened to end my life on numerous occasions. He very frequently told me that he would outlive me and outsucceed me in every aspect of life. I defended myself once and told him that he'd likely just drop out of college because he's too stupid for it, and then he'd fall back on thinking he's cut out for the military, but he'd be too weak for it. And when that also failed, he'd just be the sad and lonely loser he is destined to be. He laughed it off, but he did follow that path in life, minus being alone. Since he didn't make it that far, he got into several fights after being booted from the military, including slashing some innocent man in the face with a knife. He spiraled out even further after that and ultimately died from a TBI while jacked up on cocaine. He's only one of 3 people I've ever wished ill will upon, remembering all the torment. The only reply I have to his passing is I won. Story 33. My school didn't really have cool kids, but one of the standoffish pretty girls is now a realtor in my hometown. I actually always liked her despite never being close. She wasn't mean, but she also wasn't friendly. I always thought she was a chill person, though. I felt bad for her, honestly, since she matured hella early compared to the rest of us, and guys were constantly being gross to her because she was hothead big. She gained a lot of weight since then, but I think it suits her. She comes off as much more approachable, and she honestly looks happier in her business card photo than she did while in school. I'm glad she stuck around. Honestly, most people from our school left the area after graduating due to lack of affordable housing options. If I run into her, you'll definitely see if she'd be open to getting a drink and catching up talk to who harassed her. I was definitely one of the weird nerdy girls, but we never had any bad blood between us that I know of, so she might be down. Story 34. Most of them kept their coolness and found great success in positions such as managers and bosses. There's a reason why character strong individuals as seen as better people. Story 35. My HS best friend who dumped me for being a reed kissing a boy at a party because I was apparently going to ruin her Harvard career, went to a state school, and works with the mentally ill. I worry for those mentally ill people. Story 36. My HS was kind of affluent. A few were dead due to suicide, a few to overdosing, a few to drunk driving accidents. Some are in prison for murder. They were not my friends just because they wanted to feel what it's like to murder someone. Others who were ended up okay and seem to be good family guys now. One is a now retired starting NFL QB. Story 37. Arrested for statutory and lewd pictures of minors. Dude told me I'd be nothing when I dropped out of high school, and I've had 2 careers and been all over the world since. Story 38. She was like Regina George, blonde, blue eyes, rich, total, and a bully toward me in HS. Now she's a lawyer and a successful one. She humbled fast after graduating, and somehow we reconnected sometime later and are best friends. Life is strange, but not always shitty. Story 39. How do you tell if they peaked in high school? Are they in their 70s? People can change. Someone who has a rough time in their 30s can turn things around. So shallow to look down on people like this. Are you still mad that they were more popular than you? Story 40. She went all in on environmental activism in college, spending 4 years screaming about climate change and organizing protests and neglecting academics. Now, she's completely burned out and utterly disillusioned, feeling like she was just a useful tool for some of the more established organizers. She still believes in the cause, but the constant fighting and the slow pace of change, combined with the feeling of being exploited, just drained her. She's still trying to figure out how to put it all together again. Story 41. My school didn't really have hard divisions. I was somewhat popular, others were more, others were less. Most of the popular kids were that way, because they were really nice. I don't keep in touch with the vast majority, but I hope they're doing well. The couple I've kept in touch with are doing quite well. Life has been good to many of us, of course, not without challenges. Life is too short to really think much about high school. Story 42. One of my closest friends during high school, in my eyes, peaked in HS. She has been chasing being an influencer since 2011 at least. She currently has 1,400 followers on IG. She's tried everything to go viral. Paid subscribers beginning in the early IG days when you could still do that. She clearly pays for engagement on her posts, and what little she gets is from bot fitness influencer accounts. She's a grifter, and a pathetically bad one. Oscillating between posting things about being unbothered by her haters. Most people don't hate her. Most people simply don't have the patience anymore for her narcissism and being grateful for her Greek god husband. He's literally just a guy. And talking about the grind, she's tried peddling herself as a life coach, a beauty guru, a fitness influencer, a weight loss influencer, not disclosing that the weight gain was literally just for being pregnant, a skincare influencer, not disclosing that her limited acne issues were also from pregnancy, showing off her Cadillac of 2005 that she strategically tries to hide the year she's tried being a mommy influencer, a model, or she paid a photographer to take action shots. An actress got 1 gig at a small, out-of-the-way community theater years ago. A health coach, no clients, and now gives out health advice as a future doctor. She intends to attend a holistic health university that has no grade prereqs, informal admissions, and is non-accredited. You may read this and wonder why I give a Well, it's because a lot of the things that she has tried to do successfully are things that she made me feel really shitty about growing up. If I got cast in a show, she would brag about how she had considered auditioning, but it wasn't worth her time or wasn't challenging enough. If I voiced I wanted to be a nurse, and I am actively in school pursuing my nursing prerequisites, then she would explain that she was interested in being a doctor. There's so much more to do. I struggled with hereditary cystic acne, and she was constantly belittling my struggle and telling me it was because of my diet or other outside factors when it absolutely was just hereditary cystic acne that I spent 10 years exploring solutions for with my dermatologists, estheticians, and other. I was a little chubby growing up, and when I tried to pursue being more active and losing weight, she turned it into a competition, and she would volunteer to go on runs with me, but run faster than me, and then insist we leave because she was done sooner. She didn't help. She just made me feel cruddier all the time. When I was voted for prom court, she encouraged me to deter the nomination because it was stupid even though Shed wanted to be on court. So I keep up with her antics. Story 43, there was this cheerleader I had a crush on in high school. I would have done anything to be with her, however nothing ever came of it. Years later, I saw her again at a local town function, and she had become overweight, had 4 kids by 2 different dads, and lived in a trailer park, and was becoming a real estate agent. Apparently her other career choices fell through, and she chain-smoked cigarettes. All I could think after leaving the function was, man, I dodged a bullet. Story 44, I had a friend who peaked in high school from what he tells me. We became friends in adulthood, and all he does now is talk about cool he was in high school. Pretty sad, really. He's almost 40 now and hasn't really done anything with his life, but refuses any kind of help, so we don't really speak now. Story 45, they are all in real estate, have kids, and don't do anything cool, at least from what I see on social media. I don't think they even peaked in high school. I think the girls were just pretty, and the guys were bad enough bad boys to appeal to the other kids. A lot of the bad boys are sober now, and up their lives for a while, and the girls will have at least 2 or 3 kids, and put on some pounds, lol. Story 46 appeared on an MTV show and uses the little bit of influence they have pushing the most sketchy MLM products onto people, while riding the coattails of their wife, who gained actual popularity from the show. Story 47, some people might think I peaked in HS. But Eve actually chose a simpler life, and I'm happy with it. Didn't shoot to success or anything, but I'm good with being average. Story 48, he played 6 seasons in the NFL as a punt returner slot receiver, retired because of injury, then took over his dad's insurance company, and now is the king of my small town. Pretty nice guy, though. Prob not what this sub is looking for, lol. Story 49, could totally be off, but from my 20-year HS reunion here are the 3 routes. The girls are all about 300 pounds, single, multiple children. The guys work some local job and father one of the children above and are now with a similar girl past, but not least fresh out of a recovery and some type of born again. I mean, I know, but also fairly accurate. Story 50, not all the cool kids were jerks where I went to school. The coolest girls in my class wound up marrying a good man. Having 2 respectful, nice daughters, has a very interesting career, and I would trust her with any of my secrets. When my mom passed away, she happened to be halfway across the world for work. She flew home for my mom's funeral. I can't think of one cool kid, or nerd for that matter, that turned into a loser. A few married jerks and losers, but we all make mistakes, especially when we're young. Story 51 went traveling for 10 years. He was cool, very popular. We wrestled and played football together. Very humble person, never rude. Had D1 scholarship offers, but he never liked sports, just played because of his dad. He's back stateside working as an electrician. We text here and there. He's very happy. Married a wonderful girl, and they're expecting their first child. Story 52, they're literally in prison, on probation, or are dead. All the losers in high school are happily married with kids and their own businesses. Story 53, last I saw of a few of them. Hay race where they stood, prom queen and king waitress at local bar. Divorced, he works at a small car shop in a little town. Other popular people, at 10 years reunion, many were still using mom and dad's credit cards and cars. Star lacrosse player works in family crab house after he lost scholarships due to him drunkenly performing a hit and run. Most never left the small town. If they did, it was for college, and they came back to get a position at mom or dad's work. Many just went to college to find a partner. They don't use their degrees at all. Story 54, girl who was popular and bullied me from 6th grade to high school graduation, got pregnant senior year and was visibly pregnant by summer. As far as I know, she's still working a lousy job at the local rec center, and her baby's father ditched her. Story 55, I know of 2. One is now an alcoholic who has tried and failed miserably to start a YouTube channel, and the other is permanently in Suboxone due to her years-long heroin addiction and tried to start and of also failing miserably. Story 56, not sure. None of them ever talked to me. JK definitely was way too cool in my younger years, and partying young ended up escalating to hard drugs and full-blown addiction. Earned a lot of scars emotionally and physically along the way, and ultimately found long-term recovery at 25. I'm 33 now and have a good career, marriage, own my home, and have a great relationship with family and friends. I think maybe I'm even cooler now, having earned a lot of stripes in the School of Hard Knocks. I'm a pretty normal corporate office type guy. I just have some questionable tattoos and plenty of stories that are NSFW. Story 57, I have no idea since I deleted my Facebook account in the 2010s. The only one I recall is the pretty girl that I had a crush on became a Buddhist running a nonprofit that feeds the homeless and poor. She's in her late 40s and still looks like an absolute model. Plus, she has that spiritual glow about her, the direct opposite of serial killers with dead eyes. Her eyes are full of life. Story 58, the guy who was arguably one of the coolest kids of my generation absolutely peaked in HS. He never amounted to anything. He tried to study like 5 different careers. Never lasted more than a semester in any because he didn't want it. He was lazy, got fired from like 5 or 6 entry-level jobs, and then got into some drugs. Last I heard, he was still unemployed and doing drugs, and he still acted as if he was in high school, mid-30s now. Story 59, really nice guy on the football team. He used to be bullied, but when that became known, people stood up for him. He was voted for prom king, heart of gold. Unfortunately, things just never worked out for him. Graduated from college, had shitty jobs to the point where he worked with his dad doing lawn care, then stopped that. When we caught up a decade ago, he was in despair about how much of a loser he felt and mentioned the prom king deal. Unfortunately, I had to unfriend him on FB because progressive, he kept messaging me weird stuff. He was also looking at questionable material that would end up getting posted on his FB feed. Story 60, both of the most popular girls from my school kind of wasted their life for boys. One in particular wound up marrying an older guy because he had a bit of money and bought her a laptop when they first started dating. She never really was attracted to him. I feel sorry for her. Story 61, yes. I am her. Almost died during childbirth in my 20s and became immunocompromised, disabled in a wheelchair. In high school, I was a teen model, cheerleader, captain of the gymnastics team, had my own apartment at 16, and all the parties were at my place. Things that no one could be prepared for or thinks can happen all the time is reality. Story 62, if you're done with high school, didn't peak in high school yourself, and have a negative view on those people. Why do you care? High school's over, move on. Story 63, the sad truth is that many of the loud bullies who peak in high school actually get pretty rich. Networking and social skills will take you very far, very fast. Story 64, he's still living there, although the town shrunk from 3,600 or so to 1,800 or so today. He was the football and basketball star. He looks like any old fat man now. He's not in great shape. Story 65, I had a pretty great grade with some quality people. Several actually had a brief Army career and became officers. Some have independent business. Some in high-tech. One started a skiing and snowboarding guidance school at Trois Valleys. Hope it's spelled right in France. And we're not even Europeans, LOL. Story 66, personal trainers and realtors make up the bulk of them. One notable one robbed a bank and shot himself when the cops pulled him over. He was on a couple of those TV poker shows in the early 2000s. Gambling debt ruined him. He was a cool dude. I miss him. Story 67, she is a severe alcoholic and drug addict. Kicked out of university. Jumping between simple jobs, trying to make ends meet month to month. Not going through at least one trauma by the time you're 20 can be brutal later on. Story 68, hanging out with the same clique in the same small town. Planning HS reunions with the same group. I wouldn't walk across the street to pee on them if they were on fire. Story 69, these are always so mean-spirited, LOL. I don't really have a problem with the cool kids in high school. I don't want them to fail just because I wasn't cool, LOL. A few of them do medical sales in Miami where you go far by being charismatic and good-looking. One is a PA, one in med school, a few are in marketing and finance. Prom king and queen married and have 2 kids. They are generally successful in their own ways and good-looking. If I saw them at a wedding ID, probably say hi, but I don't really think about them outside of that. Story 70, angry at everyone, hardcore Trumper. We were great friends, but I had a break. We were living together for a couple of years. He was doing me a favor as I was in a rough spot. He started dating a girl, and they were hanging out in the living room, and he broke out his high school yearbooks. We're in our early to mid-40s. Story 71, he's a crypto bro. He was a football jock in the most stereotypical way. He was in high school. He got a football scholarship to a nice school. He apparently didn't do great at football and wasn't drafted into the NFL. He tries to sell crypto and master classes now. He seems to cycle through a different gift every few years and try to loop in everyone from my graduating class. Story 72, most of the guys work manual labor jobs and look like old leather and are mostly alcoholics. The girls kind of vary a bit more. Some of them are housewives. Some of them are in the workforce, but never really gained any level of expertise in anything, so are mostly hourly at places like banks and car dealerships, and a number are waitresses. Some of the girls are okay people, but mostly not very interesting to talk to. A few of both girls and guys did okay, and are things like insurance salespeople and accountants.